The fantasy news must flow. Welcome everybody to another episode of Fantasy News. It feels good to be back, and today we are going to go ahead and jump right on into, fittingly, the Wheel of Time news. A new animated Wheel of Time movie is reportedly in development, written by the same writer who created X-Men First Class, Thor, and Camp Cretaceous, Zach Stintz. And before we get any more into this, Deadline, come here, a little closer. Robert Jordan's graphic novel series? Now, if you're a Wheel of Time fan, you might be thinking, Daniel, clearly this is referring to the fact that there are graphic novels for Eye of the World, the first Wheel of Time book, and New Spring. Except no, because this is saying it's being based off the graphic novels, but it's telling a wholly new and original story. And then at the end of the article, it refers to, again, all of the Wheel of Time as a graphic novel series. And I would just like to point out, these are words, not pictures, okay? The movie is reportedly going to be about a young woman in a remote village whose village is set upon by evil forces, an entirely original concept within the Wheel of Time world. And what strikes me as very notable here is that this is going to be a new story told in the Wheel of Time, not from the minds of Robert Jordan or Brandon Sanderson, and that scares the hell out of me. I'm aware that I made apparently some people a bit frustrated when I referred to the marketing around season 2 of the Wheel of Time of striking me as a bit YA because it featured Halsey as a song choice, and I'm sorry if that was offensive in any way. It's certainly not how I meant it. There is just a trend of a lot of YA targeted things, indeed using songs from pop stars. I'm a Halsey fan. She's on my regular playlist. But it is worth noting here that this is directly stated to be YA aimed in concept and execution, which in my opinion does line up with a lot of the branding that is being put on the Wheel of Time franchise right now, and notably has, as I noted before, been attempted before when they began splitting the Wheel of Time up into smaller books and trying to market them towards a YA audience. So this is not unfamiliar territory for the series, technically. And yes, the article ends, the Wheel of Time graphic novel series is composed of 14 novels, 2,750 named characters, and a story spanning a mythos of 3,000 years. It's not a graphic novel series. Do you do any research at all before you write this shit?
You've probably heard me spoken on other potential Wheel of Time adaptations in the past beyond just the ongoing show over at Prime, and that is because the Wheel of Time franchise does not have all of its rights in one basket. Now, who exactly is behind this one is a mixture of iWatt and another production company I have on screen now, but some of the producers involved with this project are also working on the Prime show. Hi, Pips. And so it does end up in this strange place where you inevitably, as fans, due to a lack of transparency, just end up wondering why something is being done, especially with the history like, Winter's Dragon and things along those lines. He is really just not respecting news right now. So yes, this is falling into that rabbit hole of just additional Wheel of Time adaptations that are being spoken of. Whether this means other ones we've talked about in the past are not happening, or this is just an evolution of those, I'm not entirely sure.
As for my thoughts on this actually being done, I do think that Wheel of Time animated is an interesting way to go, and in the right studio's hands could be really cool. Do I think these are necessarily the right hands? I have absolutely no idea. There is stuff in this writer's back catalog I think is good. There's stuff that I think is not so good, and we are going to need far more details before I can judge it, aside from the fact that I instinctually just do not like the idea of a writer coming in to write something in the Wheel of Time universe that is not Robert Jordan or Brandon Sanderson, because I know how much work Sanderson had to do before he began writing in the Wheel of Time universe, and I don't know if this same writer is going to be given the same level of access to Robert Jordan's notes that Sanderson was directly from Harriet, Robert Jordan's widow. But hey, if they're a mega fan, it could turn out well. We're gonna have to wait and see. Next news, and that is going to be that yes, we got the trailer for season 2 of the Wheel of Time. You can sum up and oversimplify my thoughts with just cautiously optimistic, but if you'd like to see my full thoughts reaction right there, and I did get comments saying, why didn't you point out that was the Horn of Valir? I honestly just didn't notice it. I'm not perfect. I'm so sorry. Continuing on with the trailer news, we also got a One Piece trailer, and I usually am more guarded than this, but I'm happy to say that this just put a smile on my face. There are certainly some visuals I think fans are gonna have to swallow down, will just not translate from the manga or the anime, however you consume One Piece, to live action super well, but the just joy that seems to be on the actors' faces and a lot of the effort going in just seems to be working in some ways that are surprisingly positive for me. I don't think it looks perfect by any stretch of the imagination, but I know I will at least in some ways be having a really good time with this live action adaptation, and they seem to be stressing with the marketing we're seeing around this show that Oda had a lot of input, and I hope because of that, if it's all true in this marketing, that Goda did have a heavy hand to push this in a direction that'll satisfy fans, myself included. I think if they lean into the absurdity camp and just schlock of One Piece sometimes, and then manage to land those emotional moments, it will be solid enough to please most fans, but you're never gonna please everybody, especially with live action Netflix adaptations. Let's go ahead and just finish off the trailer news and continue on with the trailer for The Creator. This seems to be about a war between man and robots led by AI, and yeah, it's a little bit Skynet-y, but this does seem to have at least a different aesthetic and approach to that conflict. There's inevitably, from a writing standpoint, going to be the issues of like, why didn't AI just do X, Y, and Z? But you know, suspend your disbelief for fun time popcorn flick. And there's also the introduced element in this trailer I'll talk about because it's in the trailer of a childlike robot that is created as some kind of super evolution. And just once, I want the child cute robot that like gets to our protagonist's heart to turn out to actually be the bad guy. And you get the lines that are like, "You're so easy manipulated with just doe eyes, you stupid humans." That would be a twist ending where actually our protagonist was wrong and everyone who inevitably in this script is like, no, kill that child, was right. That would be an A24 level twist I would appreciate. And the last trailer we're going to talk about today was the Halloween special last year here on the channel being adapted in a way that I really appreciate, and that would be Uzumaki for Toonami. This looked really well done, and the attention to detail in the animation was fantastic, and maybe most importantly, and something I really appreciate, it seems to be being kept in black and white. I don't think they're going to add color later on. This seems to be the approach here, and I really like it. I actually think that lends to the aesthetic of the crazy dark world from Junji Ito, and this trailer made it so I was like, oh, guaranteed. I am going to watch this day of release because I really liked Uzumaki for just how wild and flawed it was, and anything that seems like it's coming from a crazy creative mind I feel like I can learn from, so this adaptation will probably be a good time. But let's stop breaking the pattern of fantasy news and jump back on into the book news. I gotta do a little bit of a quick self-promo plug here. Yes, my book Neon Ghosts is available now and being received thank you. Wow, I love you all. If you'd like to go ahead and check out a copy yourself, of course, links down below. Let's go ahead and jump into the Lightbringer news. No, not the recent release from Pierce Brown, if you'd like to see an interview about that right here, but instead the series by fantasy epic writer Brent Weeks. It has had a new cover release from Orbit Books, and they look really good. I've long maintained here on the channel that Orbit Books just keeps hitting it out of the park, and my God, I am not wrong, at least from my subjective aesthetic standpoint. The magic system in these books is largely based on color, also similar to a Red Rising thing. Are they gonna turn out to all be? No. Anyway, it's just a good representation of that magic system while kind of embracing the darker tone the series certainly gets into as it goes on. So if you've been waiting to check out Lightbringer or get physical copies yourself, this could be the way to go. And a winner for the self-published science fiction competition's second ever awards has been announced, and I am doing this, one, to congratulate the winner, which is The Last Gifts of the Universe. Fantastic name. And two, to just let you know that this is a competition that goes on and supports self-published authors, so if you'd like to go ahead and give them a follow, of course, link down below. And that provides a perfect transition for me to go ahead and bring you 5 books published by members of the community here. Yes, goblins be writing, and right now I'm gonna let you know of 5 self-published books by members of the community. And And for this week's roundup of self-published Goblin books, we have everything from Dragon's Skin being referenced to protagonists born with incredible strength and magnificent covers. So if you'd like to support any of these self-published authors, link down below if available to bookshop.org, which also supports local bookstores. But we're going to go ahead and kick this off with Manaborn by A.S. Friedrichs. In vibrant pools hidden away by time and jealousy, in bright azure veins upon cavern walls, in the very air itself emanates the power of mana, granting powers unique and destructive to those strong enough to wield them. Manaborn is the story of three such people, unaware of their magical powers. Thrust into perilous adventures, their world unravels as the fate of a kingdom is thrown into flux due to events involving King Aradel himself and his mysterious Magus. And Manaborn wins my favorite cover of the day. Next up, we have Stones of Merethi, the Lost Prince. Ashan is a bound slave tasked with delivering a package under suspicious circumstances. When the delivery goes pear-shaped, he must flee for his life, both from his crazed master and from those who expected the package. He finds himself fleeing soldiers, vampires, living corpses, and the only place he has ever known. He finds aid in the unlikely arms of a lizard man sorcerer, another slave, and a group trying to unseat the paranoid High King Hotar. Argel, subjugated into magical servitude by her witch aunt Mary, desires freedom in any way possible, even death. Asham runs afoul of Mary. Argel sees her chance and begs for release. Lord Cairn just wants to follow in his father's footstep, managing his people the best way he knows how. Unfortunately, Lord Saktakasha, working for High King Hotar, gives him an opportunity he can't refuse. Lady Wolf, the ruler of lands on the brink of economic collapse, seeks aid from Lord Cairn, hoping for training for her conscripts and trade for her people. As High King Hotar sends troops after the assassin, aided by the mischievous shadow man Rasvitrak, Ashan learns of a war looming over the horizon and a plot to frame his friends as assassin. Finally, we have The Sword of Mercy and Wrath, Sword of Dominion, Book 1, which actually has a sequel available now as well. In a cathedral at the south of Eastern Empire, young men and women are trained to be killers. The Order of the Golden Swords Inquisitors are feared for their brutality, masked as piety. Masters of blade and poison and crossbow, their quarry is the god-cursed werewolf, whom they hunt with impunity to herald the return of their god. Betrayed by her monstrous father, Celine loses her left arm and nearly life when she's saved by a traveling inquisitor. Scared and broken, she swears vengeance on the cursed beasts and joins the Order. It takes all her will to overcome her limits, only for her violent past to drag her back into blood. With the fabric of the Empire at stake, Celine must master her hatred, hone it into a sharp point, then let it loose at her enemies.
And we have a last-minute exciting update for my Travis Baldee fans in the crowd, because it seems that Tor has snapped up a deal with him for 3 additional, quote, cozy fantasy stories, the first of which is set to be published in November of 2025. As a massive Travis Baldee fan, hells yes. For those of you who don't know, Legends and Lattes is one of my favorite reads of recent memories, and the upcoming prequel to it, Books and Bone Dust, is one of my most hyped reads. Pips, why are you just coming in every time I start recording now?
Now, because fantasy news has been off for a little bit, we haven't been able to cover the full extent of the writers and actors now strike that has been going on. There's not too much to cover from the fantasy sci-fi angle aside from just stating, yes, of course, I support these people who are on strike, and if you'd like to see a deep dive that kind of provides the angles of their arguments and what exactly they're going up against, I will have a Drew Gooden video linked down below where he did just a sensational job getting into this issue. Though there is one bit of small controversy I just want to clarify here. George R. Martin is someone who, of course, you can criticize for an abundant list of reasons, but I have seen some people seeming to get mad at him because House of Dragon is still being produced, and taking that to then claim that George R. R. Martin is doing something wrong. One, he would not have the power to shut down production of a show no matter what, but House of the Dragon is an entirely UK-based production, it seems, so the strike going on here, though despite many people involved in the House of the Dragon production seeming to support the strike, is just not under the same unions, not fighting the same fight, so it wouldn't really make sense for them to shut down production. And for George R. R. Martin himself, he has apparently actually stopped working on the show, providing writing feedback because of the ongoing strike, and he's even made a blog post supporting the people currently on strike. And he's gone on record stating that he believes this will be a long and bitter dispute between the studios and those striking, and I agree, because what these people are asking for is well within reason, and these studios seem to be just digging in their heels despite the massive amounts of pushback they are getting. I'll end this segment by just saying the best eras of the American economy have been when the workers controlled the most of the wealth. That is how you raise up a middle class. That is how you allow vertical mobility. I am all for workers of any sector pushing for unity and strength in numbers to fight against those who are trying to exploit their labor and who continue to try and work to take the value away from the worker's dollar in the ever-going battle of just making the wealthy wealthier. Writers and actors both are valuable workers who are the ones who are responsible for bringing you the vast majority of the quality in the content you enjoy. If you want them to not have to be working multiple jobs, if you want them to be able to live a comfortable life so that they can then continue to focus on their work and bring you the entertainment you enjoy, you should support them getting paid more. But continuing on out of that news, we're going to go ahead and jump into the update for Season 2 of The Last of Us, with Craig Mazin confirming The Last of Us Part 2 will be split into 2 seasons for the HBO series. And I think that actually addresses my biggest criticism for Season 1. Season 1, in my opinion, could have been 2 full seasons. The biggest criticisms I had all related to the fact that it felt like they were over-condensing a story that needed more room to breathe. So I know there's quite a bit of controversy around the second Last of Us game, but for me, I was just proven wrong. I originally thought that you would have to stretch out the story of the Last of Us game to hit that episode count, but no, it seems the other way around, where video games of the Last of Us kind do have so much narratively going on, and so it makes sense that, yeah, you might need 2 full seasons to tell one game. And think about that in hindsight, yeah, if you were going to try and make a Mass Effect adaptation, I think just the first game would need 2 or 3 seasons to have a pace that didn't feel like it was trying to shove too much down your throat. Also, I want to give a tremendous shout out to today's sponsor, Fourth Wall. Fourth Wall, for those of you unaware, is a creator-oriented merchandise platform that has allowed us to have significant upgrades to our merch here in recent months that I could not recommend more. The entire concept of the website is designed around accessibility and ease of use, and yes, they hook into the YouTube merch shelf, which many others do not. They are linked to countless brands like Champion, as well as eco-friendly options so that you can control your approach to what merch you want to create. They also have some of the best creator support I've had the pleasure of working with. I've mentioned the thank you videos they allow you to do as well, and it's probably my favorite part of the whole Fourth Wall experience. If someone purchases a shirt from me, they will directly get a thank you from moi. For any aspiring or established creator, go ahead and check out my link in the description down below, and you'll receive $15 of credit to order samples you make on the platform. So join the thousands of creators like DeFranco, MKBHD, and myself who are using Fourth Wall to make their products today.
And all right, because everyone was reacting to it, I watched the new Castlvania Nocturn trailer, and holy crap, that looked good. I get it. I will watch Castlvania as well, because the animation, the score, just everything. Like, I know trailers generally are lies, but that was a very good lie.
But all right, let's go ahead and get to the update and the first look we have gotten at Lord of the Rings War of the Rohirrim animated movie. This article went into several aspects of early production for War of the Rohirrim, and for me personally, they did raise some red flags, though I do hope this turns out, of course, to be well done. It just seems that the philosophy going into War of the Rohirrim, which might not be a surprise based off the name, is going to be heavily leaning into the action. And that's not where I find Tolkien's storytelling or world to be its strongest. Don't get me wrong, of course there have been incredible adaptations or looks at battles within Lord of the Rings, but I don't like the idea of an entire adaptation angling itself to just be a narrative excuse to bring you those epic battles. There's a pretty big difference there that I feel like one fits Tolkien and the other doesn't. I do love the fact that they mentioned many artists who are some of the best to ever try and portray Tolkien's imagination in a visual form. That's just good news in terms of how this might look. It's just one of those things where I'm like, But this has just been your return to fantasy news. Like and subscribe if you have not already. Check out my books linked in the description down below, and have a good one, y'all. Peace.